guys, welcome to Elevate, the channel that's designed to elevate your consciousness. So today we're going to talk about how and why the 2020 US election was rigged and how they are trying to do it again. So first off, I want to say that I'm not some right-wing Trump fanatic. However, when there is such blatant hypocrisy on the part of mainstream media and the Democratic Party and other institutions and organizations that are working in unison to try and stop Donald Trump becoming president, as a citizen with a conscience, I have to say something. So please wait and watch until the end of the video. I'm going to present to you evidences over the last 8 years of why I think they're doing this. So any ideas or comments that you have, make sure you leave it below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get on with it. I would actually describe myself as a centrist. However, the political dilemma has been shifted so far to the left that I come across as a conservative. So a quick history lesson. In 2016, Trump won the US presidential election, beating Hillary Clinton. This was to the shock of the entire world and the status quo and the establishment of American politics. Nobody thought he was going to win. As a matter of fact, New York Times had a prediction 85 to 15% in favor of Hillary Clinton. Also, you had people coming on mainstream media, such as CNN, saying, well, Trump has a 0% chance of winning the election. There were also celebrities saying it. Everyone thought that Donald Trump is going to lose. However, he won. And this shocked the entire system. So they basically spent the next 4 years trying to tarnish his reputation.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
So who is Donald Trump? Donald Trump is an American businessman and media personality. He inherited $400 million from his father, Fred Trump, in the 1970s. However, he managed to expand on his father's business. So he expanded the real estate business from Boston to Manhattan. He also had the #1 TV show, The Apprentice, for 15 years in a row, getting viewerships or ratings, as they call it, of 30 million people per episode. Now, if you turn on the TV, the most viewed, series has 1 million or 2 viewers. He used to get 30 million viewers per episode in The Apprentice. Also, he managed to become the president of the United States. So I think he actually improved on his father's legacy. You know, people say, oh, well, he's lucky, he inherited all this money, but it's actually very difficult to improve on your father's legacy if you come from a rich family. Personally, I know many rich kids that come from rich families and yet they become drug addicts or they become losers. It's very hard to motivate yourself when you come from that kind of money. So all of Donald Trump's wealth and fame gave him the opportunity to start hanging out with other celebrities, such as Oprah Winfrey, which used to visit Mar-a-Lago, his mansion in South of Florida, and they used to write letters to Trump. So Trump has a new book out called Letters to Trump from all the different celebrities, and people used to love Trump. They used to send him letters of how great a guy he is, how great a time they had with him. So everybody used to be his friend. Even Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton attended his wedding because he donated $1 million to their campaign for them to become election. But what people don't understand is that Donald Trump used to actually be a Democrat. He used to fund Democrats. They used to call him and beg for money for their campaigns. So they used to love him. However, all of this changed for some reason when he decided to run for president.
Hi, Chuck. He used to love me when I was a Democrat, you know.
The reason why they didn't like him when he ran for president is because he's a populist candidate. I know he's running as a Republican. However, he was a populist candidate saying things that normal politicians wouldn't say. He was himself. He wasn't really reading a teleprompter for 2 hours. And also, which is the most important thing, he wasn't funded by anyone. He's already a billionaire, so he doesn't need the donations of the pharmaceutical industries or the finance sector. Because how it works in America is that these big sectors, such as the pharmaceutical, the finance, the oil and gas, they actually fund candidates. So those same candidates, when they get into power, they have to do exactly as their donors say. So, Putin said this thing about men with black suits, that all these presidents come and go. However, these men in black suits walk in and they tell them what to do. That's exactly who the donors are. The donors spend $1 billion per candidate. So they want a return on investment. Of course, they're not gonna give someone $1 billion to fund their campaign just because they want to be nice. They want something in return, and usually what they get in return is influence, tax breaks.
Уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим. Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика не меняется. Знаете почему? Потому что очень сильна власть бюрократии. Вот человека избрали, он приходит с одними идеями, к нему приходят люди с кейсами, хорошо одетые и в темных, как у меня, костюмах, но только не с красным галстуком, а с черным или с темно-синим. И начинают объяснять, как нужно делать. И все сразу меняется, понимаете? Это происходит от одной администрации к другой.
Ever since 2015, when Donald Trump decided he's going to run for president, the mainstream media, all that we're talking about is how Donald Trump is a racist, he's a sexist, he's a bigot. But all of these things are untrue, because in the 1970s, he was giving jobs to black people in his hotels and casinos. The same time where people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden were calling black people super predators and passing laws which disproportionately affected black people, such as having small sums of drugs on them. So there is some black people that are in prison now because they had a gram of weed on them. And these laws were passed by people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. And the reason why it was disproportionately affected the black community is because police raided black communities more. And in the same time, Donald Trump was giving jobs to black people.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation, you get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice.
No, I just weighed the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07 without the bag.
So how long is
2.0.
That was Hunter Biden there, filming himself.
Another example of why Donald Trump isn't racist is that he defended people like Mike Tyson, one of the greatest boxers of all time. He used to fight in his casinos, but then also he defended him in the 90s on his rape case, saying that it's a racist case towards a black athlete that you're calling a super predator because a woman knocked on his door at 4 a.m. So obviously, if a woman goes to Mike Tyson's house, then she has no option but to be raped. Isn't that racist? And at the same time, the mainstream media and people like Hillary Clinton were calling people like Mike Tyson a super predator and how she should go to jail for being a rapist. And Donald Trump was saying, no, he shouldn't go to jail, even if the case is true. Even though the evidence doesn't add up, even if the case is true, Mike Tyson generates about $30 million per fight. So if he is guilty, instead of going to jail, he should give a percentage of the money he makes per fight to women's campaigns. That way, more women will be helped, and we wouldn't lock up a black athlete for 4 years, one of the greatest boxers of all time, for a very vague accusation. So all these people that are, flying the equality flag now, saying how Donald Trump is a racist, you guys were the racist 20, 30 years ago, saying lock black people up because they're super predators and, passing laws regarding drug control, which disproportionately affected black people.
Take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy.
Also, during his campaign, Donald Trump was spied on by President Barack Obama and basically wiretapped all his phones. in the Trump Tower. That is illegal. We had a previous president that done something similar called Watergate investigation. It was done by President Nixon, and then he was forced to resign because of he done. But then we have President Obama spying on the Trump campaign, you know, hoping that they get something from him, but they don't get anything. And all of these things we know now as facts. Despite all these efforts, Trump wins the 2016 election, right? However, the establishment and the Democratic Party couldn't accept that he has won. So basically, what they do is to attach a phony charge, a phony claim, a witch hunt to him, saying, well, he only won because the Russians helped him. So that was the case that was going on for 3 years out of the 4 years Trump was president. And basically it cast a shadow over his presidency. But then after 3 years of investigation, we now know as a fact that isn't true. That's a phony case. And now we know that it was actually perpetuated by the Clinton campaign. So they knew it was untrue, but regardless, they tried to basically defame Donald Trump's name, saying, well, he only won because the Russians helped him. Now we know that's untrue and perpetrated by the Clinton campaign. So during the same time that the mainstream media and the legal system was trying to tarnish Donald Trump's reputation and name, Donald Trump actually achieved some amazing milestones. So they kept calling him a sexist and a racist. However, the minority unemployment was at its lowest, meaning more black people and Hispanics were in work than ever before. Same with women. You know, more women were in work during Donald Trump than any other time. So how is he a racist and a sexist if there's more women working? Also, an average American family was $2,000 better off per year. You know, the stock market was going for an amazing bull run and he hit record numbers. Okay, so that's just the economic side. He also achieved some great things on the international side. For example, he killed Qasim Soleimani and al-Baghdadi. So Qasim Soleimani, for those of you that know me, I'm Iranian, and Qasim Soleimani is probably one of the biggest terrorists in the Middle East in the 21st century. He has killed many innocent Iranian civilians that were protesting for their freedoms, for their basic rights in Iran. And also he was killing innocent civilians in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. He was putting bombs in toys and hoping Iraqi kids pick it up, take it home, and then he would explode it. And he would say, well, we are taking out our enemies. This guy used to be a child killer. He was the biggest destabilizing force in the Middle East. Yeah. However, when Trump kills Qasim Soleimani, instead of the mainstream media coming and saying, well done, Mr. Trump, for doing an amazing job, saying, oh, well, he's done the wrong thing because now we're going to enter war with Iran and this is going to start World War III, instead of praising him for killing a terrorist. Can you imagine if the mainstream media talked about Obama the same way when he killed bin Laden? You know, he also got rid of ISIS, Trump. He killed al-Baghdadi. So, but then again, no matter what he done, the mainstream media wouldn't give him any praise. You know, the economy was doing well. He was also achieving great things on the international front. He renegotiated deals such as NAFTA and replacing it with USMCA, you know, and basically helped many American farmers, giving them more than $80 billion, putting tariffs on Chinese goods, which led to hundreds of billions of dollars coming to the United States. Also, during that time, Russia wouldn't dare invade Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine, Crimea, in 2014. So you're telling me they waited 6 or 7 years until Biden became president? Why didn't they do it during Trump's time? And the whole time we were hearing, oh, well, Trump and the Russians are friends. So if Putin was Trump's friend, why didn't he invade Russia then? He wouldn't have had any backlash. So now, and this is the part actually where I actually became a Trump fan, because I wasn't a Trump fan to begin with. However, the more I saw mainstream media not giving him any praise, spreading misinformation about him the whole time, I thought to myself, something ain't right. You know? So always have a perspective of why they are trying to tarnish someone's reputation so bad. Why are they not giving him any praise, no matter what he does? Isn't that weird? Isn't that strange? So in 2019, Donald Trump's presidency peaked because the economy was doing amazing, and also the fake witch hunt was proven to be untrue by the Mueller report. So I believe that if the election was held in 2019, Donald Trump would have won by a landslide because everyone was doing well. Everything was stable. He didn't enter any new wars. The economy was doing well. Women were doing well. Black people were doing well. Everyone was doing just fine. And this shadow that was cast over his presidency, that how he is, working with the Russians, it was proven to be untrue. So he actually peaked in 2019. And I think certain people saw that and they didn't like that. They were like, we were trying to hit him so hard for the last 3 years and it hasn't worked. He's only got stronger. So what should we do? So as I mentioned before, Donald Trump took hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and other activities from the Chinese government. So it's safe to say the Chinese government didn't like him. In 2020, things took a turn for the worse. So in March 2022, we had international lockdowns because of the coronavirus pandemic. So in the beginning, social media companies would take down posts about people questioning the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chinese government was telling us that it came from a meat market and it was spread by a person eating a bat soup. Something which sounds ridiculous, and it was ridiculous because if you actually look on the map, that meat market is only a mile away from the Wuhan virology lab. And anyone who discussed that possibility that COVID-19 might have been a lab leak, their posts and their accounts got taken down in Instagram and Facebook. So why is that? Why is it people trying to talk about or think about or expose the origins of a virus get banned on social media? Isn't that weird? Why is social media companies, collaborating or cooperating with the Chinese government to spread a lie? They were also flagging posts as misinformation because that happened to me. I actually done a quick research on COVID-19 and I realized there was a lab leak and I posted it on my Instagram. That post got taken down, and then when I put it on my story, a notification came up saying, oh, this is misinformation. Why are big social media companies such as Instagram and Facebook protecting the Chinese agenda? So regardless of the origins of the virus, the whole world, especially the US, went into very strict lockdowns. At first, people were saying, oh, there's a 3.4 chance of people dying from the coronavirus. Now we know that is not a fact. Less than 1% of people die from the COVID-19, and most of those people are over 65 years of age. There's barely anyone that has died under 65 from COVID-19 unless they had pre-existing conditions, right? So on the mainstream media and social media companies, they were perpetuating this lie that COVID-19 is actually worse than it actually was, imposing strict lockdowns which hurt the US economy. And as a result, it hurt Trump's presidency because Trump was doing extremely well. He had record unemployment, record stock market, the economy was booming, So it makes you question, did the Chinese government intentionally spread the virus to stop Donald Trump? And why is it the social media companies cooperating with the Chinese government and spreading their misinformation and lies? Why is it that posts were taken down for saying facts? It didn't come from a meat market in Wuhan. It came from a virology lab in Wuhan. And it was intentionally leaked. So the COVID-19 vaccine was actually ready during mid-2020, during Trump's administration. And the pharmaceutical companies didn't want to announce it because they knew it would make Trump look good. They ended up announcing it 2 days after the election. Can you believe that? So pharmaceutical companies would rather have people die than to give credit to a president. And as I mentioned before, pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest donors to the establishment politicians. However, the COVID-19 is still going to go under Trump's name because Joe Biden wasn't sworn in into January 2021. However, it's all to do with public perception. They all wanted doom and gloom. They all wanted negative coverage. They didn't want anything positive because otherwise, why wouldn't they announce it? The vaccine we know now as a fact was ready in mid-2020. Why didn't they announce it before the election? Because they knew it would make Trump look good. It seemed like the more they throw at him, the stronger he got. And I think the reason for that is that people have lost faith and trust towards the mainstream media. Because most people, most political candidates would be out the race if the media had even done 1% of what they done to Trump. So, and I think there's a social awakening amongst people for realizing that the mainstream media always lied to them. Also, people have started to realize that social media companies are banning their posts as if they don't fall in line and calling it misinformation or hate speech, so perpetuating this cancel culture. However, because of something called the internet, people are a lot more awake now. The mainstream media can't lie to them like it used to. Even the social media companies can't control the information. So he had the Teflon Don effect. If you know what Teflon Don is, the more you attack it or the more you try to kill it, the stronger it gets. This is where we get to the crux of the video. Because despite the establishment, the mainstream media, international efforts to remove Donald Trump got 75 million votes in the 2020 election. That's 13 million votes more than the 2016 election. So can you imagine the mainstream media, the status quo, the establishment, the international community is trying their hardest to tarnish your reputation. However, you still end up getting 13 million more votes and then somehow lose. How is that possible? One thing that came up before the election 2020 was the corruption of the Biden family. And any posts on social media, especially Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, that discussed the Hunter Biden's laptop were taken down. Can you imagine that? Anyone that spoke about the corruption of the Hunter Biden and the Biden family in general, posts were taken down or they were marked as misinformation. Now we know as a fact that is true. The Biden family took $11 million from a Ukrainian oligarch, for Hunter Biden to sit on a board of an energy company. And he was basically using his dad's name and basically selling access and information to the US government because of his dad, when his dad was vice president. And we were not allowed to discuss that before the election. The posts were taken down by Twitter and Instagram. Why is that? Why is the social media companies collaborating with the Biden family to try to stop a factual information from getting out? Additionally, we had 50 FBI officers signing off saying that is Russian misinformation regarding the Hunter Biden's laptop. But now we know as a fact they were lying. They knew it was true, but they said it's Russian misinformation. So on the one hand, you have one political candidate, Joe Biden, being protected by the establishment, by the social media companies, and the other, we have 24-hour news cycle attacking him, and this candidate is being protected regardless of what they do. Even if something is true about them, it comes out, the posts are taken down. However, for this one, which is Donald Trump, you have attack after attack after attack and misinformation after misinformation and not giving him praise for anything that he does. That also points to the corruption of the establishment and the bureaucracies in America when you have 50 FBI intelligence officers signing off on a story which they know to be true and saying, well, no, it's not true, this is Russian misinformation. So that just shows you the establishment doesn't want Donald Trump. Another thing which I found hilarious during the same time, YouTube got rid of their dislike button. And the reason for that was because at the time I was watching a lot of Trump rallies and Trump speeches. He used to get 80-90% likes. So the bar underneath was green, you know, with a little bit of red, right? However, for Biden's videos, it was 80 or 90% dislike and it was red the whole time. And YouTube released a statement saying, well, we want to remove the dislike button because it is used for bullying children. And I think that's nonsense. Why didn't you remove the dislike button 15 or 10 years ago? If you're so concerned about children. You weren't concerned about them then. So why all of a sudden, right before a presidential campaign, you decide to take away the dislike button? The reason is because the dislike button demonstrated how much people dislike Joe Biden because they were disliking his videos. So one last thing about this. At the same time, the mainstream media was not covering any of Joe Biden's gaffes. So he was giving a speech and he was literally forgetting what he was saying halfway through the speech, because I think the guy has actually got senile dementia. He's not fit to be president. However, the mainstream media wasn't covering any of this, you know? So this again shows that they were protecting Joe Biden and putting all their efforts to attack Donald Trump, right? But then despite all of this, Donald Trump still got 13 million more votes. He got 75 million in 2020 and 62 in 2016. And then this takes me to the other point which I'm going to discuss now, which was how they might have rigged the election on election night.
Let's go lick the world.
We cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem and Joan Shingang. I'm going to pronounce right. Shanga Kawawa. Ban on transgender Americans.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate
it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second way that they might have rigged the election is by frauding the mail-in votes. Because I remember watching the election on election night and Trump was winning before I went to bed. However, when I wake up, I see this spike in Biden's votes, which I found strange in the beginning anyway. I was like, how did this guy overnight get so many votes? And now we know that in the states Wisconsin and Michigan, these are called swing states, because in America, usually some states are always won by Democrats and then some states are always won by Republicans. However, we have some purple states, which are called swing states. And actually in America, because of the electoral college that they have, it's not based on popular vote, it's based on electoral college. And these purple states, these swing states, are extremely crucial in winning the election. So what you see on election night is that Trump is winning Michigan and Wisconsin. And then at 4 a.m., there is a very suspicious spike that takes Biden just above Trump, and then he eventually ends up beating him. And then what is that spike about? You know, because if you do trading, you know that this is not a normal spike. This doesn't just happen for no reason, right? Usually, if you see this in trading, it's because the company has a new CEO or they've launched a new product. This is not a normal spike. So now we know that at 4 a.m., the day after the election, a bunch of mail-in votes came in, and that is the reason for the spike. But then it begs the question, was all of the mail-in votes in favor of Biden? You're telling me not even one vote was in favor of Trump that came in at 4 a.m. And then I thought mail-in votes are supposed to come in before the election. How are we going and finding mail-in votes at 4 a.m. the following day of election night? Isn't that so weird or strange? And then people were saying, well, we've done 3 recounts, there is no fraud. But I'm not saying recount, I'm saying where did these votes come in? And why is it so suspiciously in favor of Biden? You're telling me there's not one vote that came in that was mailed in at 4 a.m. in favor of Trump? That is not a normal spike. So here's another reason why the mail-in vote is suspicious. Because the Democratic Party was actually encouraging people not to come to the queues for the election on election day. Saying, well, it might be dangerous because you might spread COVID, so everyone please mail in your votes, right? Which I find, again, hypocritical because the same party was encouraging people to participate in the Black Lives Matter movement a few months prior. So COVID-19 didn't exist during the Black Lives Matter movement. But why did they do that? Because they knew the Black Lives Matter movement is probably going to make Trump look bad. So they encouraged people to go to the protests. However, when it comes to election night, say, oh, no, it's extremely dangerous, please don't come. And this is why this is suspicious, because also, as I mentioned, Biden was getting majority dislikes on his videos. Also, there was no one showing up to his parades. If you look at his parades, there's like 10 people there. But if you look at the Trump parade, there was thousands, maybe even millions of people, you know? So, and then the same party that's going to obviously cheat in the election saying, mail in your votes. Because if they mail in their votes, it's easier to cheat. And that explains the spike in Michigan and Wisconsin. Why is all the votes that are mailed in favor of Biden? So the election ends with Joe Biden getting 81 million votes as opposed to Trump's 75 million. So Joe Biden wins, which I actually find so weird because nobody likes Joe Biden. The guy has senile dementia. He can't hold a proper conversation with people. And you're telling me he's the most voted president of all time because 81 million votes is a record. And the person in second place is Trump with 75 million. You're telling me, Biden has got more votes than anyone else? I don't believe it because I have barely seen any Biden fans. I get some people hate Trump, you know, and I think the whole 2020 election was a referendum on Trump. So people that liked him voted for Trump, but then the people that disliked him voted for Biden. Here's why I don't think Joe Biden has got 81 million votes. Because if you look at his social media engagement, it's actually a fraction of Trump's. He was getting mostly dislikes on his videos on YouTube. And also there was not many people in his parades. So where is all these people coming from? 81 million votes. So why is your social media engagement not higher? Why is it mainly dislikes on your video and also negative comments on your videos on YouTube? And why is there barely anyone in your parades if you have so many fans? You got 81 million votes. It just doesn't make sense to me. So another thing the Democratic Party was doing during the election is that they weren't asking for voter ID. And they were encouraging everyone not to ask for voter ID and then citing racism as an excuse. What's racism got to do with it? Why don't people have to have their ID when they vote? Doesn't that lead to fraud? So because people can vote multiple different times. But then they knew they would do that, they would get more votes from the illegal immigrants because Trump is against illegal immigration, right? They also knew that maybe some people that don't like Trump can go and vote multiple times. Isn't that what? I don't understand what checking ID has to do with racism, especially when you're going to vote. Doesn't that, muddy the waters a little bit? And why is one party so keen on not having voter ID during voting? Okay, so let's talk about the Biden's presidency for a second, because the mainstream media and the establishment was so keen to get this guy into power. He clearly must have been good, right? No, because inflation has gone up by 20% during the last 4 years in Biden's administration. Petrol has gone from $2 a gallon to $7 a gallon. Can you imagine the effect that has on American families and citizens. And then also you have the embarrassment of the way America left Afghanistan, leaving innocent civilians, innocent American civilians, which then were later killed by Taliban. You know, giving them hundreds of billions of dollars worth of equipment. So the Americans went to Afghanistan for 20 years and then left for Taliban to take charge again, and then they gave them the best weapons possible. So they made them stronger. Why couldn't he just take the weapons out? Why did he leave so many innocent American civilians in Afghanistan for them to be killed? And why is the media not talking about that more? Also, we are in the same time frame, you have Russia invading Ukraine without any sort of American response, not proper response anyway, because people don't take Biden seriously. Putin doesn't take him seriously. He knows if he goes and invades Ukraine, America wouldn't do anything. You know, sending tanks to Ukraine is not going to cut it. You know, and then at the same time, you have Joe Biden making gaffe after gaffe after gaffe, basically embarrassing United States of America in the world stage. He can't even make a proper speech when there's a teleprompter right in front of him. And again, you see the mainstream media being completely silent about this. And all you hear about is the Trump indictments, the Trump mugshot, this, that. Isn't Biden in power now? Why is the mainstream media so obsessed with Trump? Why can't you cover Biden's failings? You know, it's so clear to the naked eye, the corruption. And that's the reason why I'm making this video. So, this takes us to present day. So now I've already laid out my argument of why I think the election was rigged. So that entailed the mainstream media and social media companies brainwashing people, and also, you know, the Democratic Party asking for no voter ID, and also using COVID as an excuse to fraud mail-in votes. But then that takes us to present day, because we know Trump is now going to run again. And what they're trying to do, as you see on the news, is they keep trying to indict Trump over trivial matters. So one example is Stormy Daniels. Oh, Trump slept with a porn star 10 years before he became president. What's that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with politics? Why is that relevant? You know? But then every time they try to attack Trump, his poll numbers go up. At the moment, he's 50 points clear of the next candidate in the Republican primary. And they use these trivial things like, oh, well, the reason why the Stormy Daniels case is relevant is because he put it as a campaign expenditure on the legal fees. But that's only $150,000. What about all the other candidates that get paid billions of dollars from other sectors and then do as they say? Why is that not relevant? Why is only $150,000 relevant? $150,000 is peanuts compared to how much it costs to become president of the United States. And now we have his case in Georgia, where his mugshot went viral. So again, it backfired. They're trying to arrest him, they're trying to indict him, they keep trying to take him to court. But all that he's doing, his legend is increasing. His poll numbers keep going up. His social media engagement keeps getting higher. He made $7.1 million from that mugshot alone. So we see now that the mainstream media and the establishment is trying to indict him, is trying to arrest him. They're trying to do everything in their power to discredit him or try to throw him in jail for him not to run. Because they know if he runs, he will most likely win. And this time, they probably can't use mail-in votes as an excuse for COVID-19. You know, unless they start a new pandemic again, collaborating with China, killing hundreds of millions of people. So that's the end of the video. I have laid out all my evidence and all my opinions and ideas. If I've missed anything in this video, please let me know in the comment section. And yeah, hopefully you like it. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more videos, so stay tuned.